Hello, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Futurism at JHU podcast. I'm Ricardo, and I'm here with Steven. So, you're a new face to the podcast. So, just what are you doing at Hopkins? What year are you? Just basic introductions.
Perfect. Well, thank you for having me on. My name is Steven. I'm a senior at Johns Hopkins. I'm studying chemical and biomolecular engineering and minoring in anthropology. Other than the academic stuff, in my free time, I was in SGA this past year. I'm president of a club called Share, and I love working out.
Awesome. Nice. So, your ChemBe, that's pretty different from my experience. I'm CS. So obviously our outlook on college life and a lot of, academics looks pretty different. So would you like to tell me about sort of why you got into Hopkins? You just kind of, I know it's going to be a little bit cliche, but basically your life story about Hopkins, where you came from, what made you decide to come to Hopkins, and also why you're specifically, studying ChemBe.
Totally. Fun fact about me, I suppose, is that in high school, I did policy debate, which
Nice.
Hopkins, in fact, is not known for. But I had this decision to make whether I wanted to pursue sort of doing debate in college or if I wanted to pursue some different interests. And
Right.
I applied to Hopkins because I'm pre-med and Hopkins is the pre-med place.
Right.
So I got in ED and my decision was sort of made for me, but I've really enjoyed being able to sort of explore the engineering side of things because I just really love math. That's why I chose ChemBe, is because I think that describing the world in terms of math is really cool. And I've been able to explore my pre-med interests, so it's been great.
Awesome. And then what exactly are you going to be doing for pre-med? And also how was it being ChemBe and pre-med? Because again, a lot of people that come to Hopkins, one of the best programs that a lot of people seek out is BME. Mole cell is also pretty popular amongst pre-med. I know, for example, in CS, there's maybe a couple of people that are doing CS and pre-med, which is kind of wild to me. But ChemBe is also an interesting combination for pre-med. So sort of what inspired you to pursue a ChemBe and then, pre-med alongside that?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't quite know what ChemBe was when I joined, but I've definitely been really satisfied with the result. ChemBe, and its most basic terms, is fancy plumbing, according to one of my professors. And the body is just another set of fancy plumbing. So learning things like transport, where there's fluids flowing through pipes, and that's literally just what the blood system is, or learning about drug delivery or the ways in which drugs kind of break down in the body has been really valuable in enhancing my pre-med experience. But you're totally right that there's not as much overlap with pre-med requirements as other majors. So I've had to take a lot of bio classes outside of the curriculum, and I pursued anthropology as a minor because I thought that would be really interesting and sort of nuance my application as well as nuance my perspective on medicine. It's not fully science-based anymore. Now it's both science and sort of humanities-based. And, a lot of the clubs and volunteering going on has been a big time suck with a busy engineering curriculum already, but it's been really great.
And then how do you manage your time commitments, right? Because that's one of the issues, for example, that I came across. I know that a lot of freshmen tend to have this struggle with transitioning from high school where, a lot of the classes and everything is being done within the hours of school. Whereas you come home, maybe you do 1-2 hours of schoolwork and then you're kind of free for the rest of the day. And now in college, you're having to do all these things. Not only is the curriculum hard, but also you got to think about actively engaging in a social life, actively engaging in clubs and other things that you're interested in. So how did you navigate that coming into Hopkins, or how was your transition, high school to college and starting out?
Yeah, it was rough, I'm going to be honest, especially because I entered during COVID-19. My freshman fall was entirely online. So that was difficult in that I was still working on my sort of high school experience of I don't have to study. And then I got a 40 on my first physics exam, and I was like, I do in fact have to study. But I guess it was somewhat helpful in that there literally wasn't extracurriculars to do. CIF was online, so I couldn't really find any clubs. So I just joined 2 research labs and did virtual data analysis.
Oh, that's cool.
But I suppose in that way it did sort of transition me a little better because I learned to focus on the academics and then expand slowly over time.
Right.
I will say I was busy. I averaged probably 18 and a half, 19 credits throughout college, and
oh wow,
2 hospitals, a bunch of clubs. I didn't take a gap year for pre-med, which is kind of the norm now, but fitting all of the requirements in 4 years has been a bit of a challenge, but yeah, I think it's worth it.
Interesting. So how, averaging 18 to 19, I know the requirement for just graduating college in general is, I think they changed it to 120,
Yeah.
which is what the CS is now. For ChemBe specifically, how many credits is it in total if you just wanted to do ChemBe?
I believe the ChemBe requirement is 128.
Oh, okay.
I will end college with 165 about.
Wow, that is a major.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of like the amount of credits that you completed, because I felt kind of this way, I went ahead into college, kind of picked out a few classes that I thought were interesting. But if I would have planned out my 4 years a little bit better, I could have had a lot more just like general electives. Turns out I took more writing classes or writing intensive classes that I really needed to. Like, was that also something you experienced, or could you have done things a little bit different to try to ease that like credit load that you ended up having?
I think so. I originally considered a psych minor for a little bit, so I probably did a few too many credits there that I didn't need. But I think in general, ChemBe is nice because it's very structured. Like, what classes you have to do each semester if you're going to graduate on time. So that part is very set in stone, and then you're allowed to really build out around that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I took Pebble, which was 2 credits more than I probably needed to. I could have taken like Gen Bio Lab and that would have been fine. But honestly, I loved Pebble as a class, so it was worth it.
Awesome. And then did you ever take any like intercession courses? I know those can be a little bit popular, especially like freshmen taking them. I took like 3 credits of like intercession courses that like first year. Things that I thought were fun. A tiny little like physics course, Python bootcamp course, which was interesting. I had a problem about Dragon Ball setting, which was kind of wild. But yeah, like, did you ever take any intercession credits? How was your experience with like intercession? Because I know it's sort of like a hit or miss. A lot of people just want to relax over intercession. They don't want to do anything, which honestly, that's probably what I recommend if you really don't need the credits. But it's a good time to like explore. Did you have like experience with intercession courses?
Absolutely. I wanted to take intercession as a chance to really explore my interests. So I believe freshman year I did 2. One was about like nanomedicine and one was about like military governance. It was very interesting. It was like how sort of like dictatorships form and how like nationalism supports it. And then I took one, I believe sophomore year, about public health within the military, and that was really cool.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not really something you consider, but I did a lot of military research for policy debate in high school, so learning about that different sort of aspect of it was really cool. Then I did do Gateway or boot camp MATLAB.
MATLAB. Okay.
But then, junior year, I took the MCAT in January, so that is not going to happen with an intercession class.
No, yeah, I totally get that.
Senior year, I mean, I'm lazy and tired, man.
No, I totally get that. I think by the time we hit our senior point, a lot of us are either like looking towards more opportunities like after the fact. So I feel like that's what a lot of people just kind of concentrate their time on. They're already like pretty settled into their courses. They kind of know what they need to graduate. So taking more than that, it just kind of seems like not a waste of time, but like, it's a drag. You don't want to do things. But yeah, I think that's pretty interesting that like, you had all this experience with like doing debate in high school. Did you ever consider doing like political science? Because I know that's something that's pretty popular as well amongst people that like that sort of style.
I thought about it for a little bit, but honestly, I was on the pre-med track to start. I knew for the longest time I wanted to be a doctor, and not just because of my last name. I will preempt the joke about it.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel as though medicine is just such a tangible way to help people. Like, you're directly with them and you're directly working through the process of healing. So political science, pre-med is tenuous at best. So
yeah, no, I totally get that.
I appreciate the debate skills that have helped me through the past 4 years, things like speaking and critical thinking, but that part of my life got left behind, and that's okay. That's happens sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I know there's been also like, I'm personally more of a person that like I will get attached onto a hobby. I'll do it for a little bit and then I'll like kind of move on. Still kind of keep it in the background, but it's more of like waning away as time goes on. So I totally get that. Also because even if you don't actively pursue it, I feel like the skills that you get, especially from debating or just being in the political scene, I think it's just pretty interesting. Even if just for the sake of staying informed, a lot of people don't do that, which is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, especially with stuff that you see on the news and stuff, a lot of people just get that first impression and just kind of stick with it. So definitely like going out and reaching out is definitely something that I feel like more people should do. So, even if you never debate again or do anything of that sort, I feel like even those skills just kind of make you a little bit of a better citizen, at least taking more conscious decisions after the fact.
Yeah, I really firmly believe that you should hear every perspective before you form an opinion, because how else can you know if your opinion's the right one?
Yeah, exactly. I also love that, even if, for example, you think an opinion is bad, it can still be bad after the fact, but at the very least, if you even consider it, you might be able to know like why people are thinking that way, which I think is pretty interesting. Something that I think is crazy is like, for example, flat earthers are a thing, right? And we kind of like all make fun of them. But it's like, why are they kind of thinking this way? Which I think is pretty interesting. Like, what is the psychology behind their train of thought? And, if you go down the track and you go down the rabbit hole of trying to think like them, it's pretty interesting because you do kind of get sort of this intersection of like, oh, it makes sense why they're not trusting of the information, right? Which can spiral out of control in some other ways. But even then, it just gives you a better perspective of like just talking to people and knowing where they come from, which I personally think is pretty interesting. Yeah. So that's definitely something that people should be on the lookout for. And you mentioned that you were on like different clubs on campus. I know you do SGA, and you said you're in another club named Reach, right?
Sure.
So what experience can you tell us, information about both those SGA, which is the Student Government Association here, and I think that's only for undergraduates, right?
Yes.
And then Reach. I've never heard of Reach, so it's going to be my first time hearing about it. So if you can just give me the little like spiel of what you would say to someone that was interested in Reach.
Of course. So regarding SGA, I was kind of dubious of it at first. I think that there's sort of a perception that SGA doesn't do much. But yeah. I joined on a whim functionally, and honestly, it was really rewarding. I think SGA does an incredible amount of work, and the school would not function without them. And really being a part of that process has been really valuable. It's funny, we were talking about debate stuff. Debate was really essential to informing my sort of take on SGA and my approach to it, because all of SGA at the end of the day is something of a debate, considering whether you pass a bill or not, whether you support a motion or not, things like that. So I think that was a really valuable experience. Regarding the second club, its title is SHARE. It stands for Supporting Hospitals Abroad with Resources and Equipment.
Oh, okay.
And I am so passionate about SHARE. I could rant about it for hours.
Okay.
It's a pre-med club. You collect unused medical equipment from Johns Hopkins Hospital that would otherwise be thrown away. And then we send it abroad to countries in need. So we just sent probably 900 pounds of equipment to the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I'm so passionate about it is twofold. Number one, the international impact is just so valuable. This past year alone, we sent out 4,000 pounds of equipment total. So 2 tons going to people in need that otherwise would just be thrown away. And we're seeing this catch on nationally. This morning, actually, I just met with Columbia. They're considering adopting a SHARE program. And they want to coordinate between us, them, the Harvard chapter that's getting started, the Stanford chapter that's just getting started, and the Tufts chapter that's just getting started.
Wait, so is Hopkins like the epicenter of this club?
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
So there's that impact. But then there's also the pre-med impact, which, pre-med culture, you hear about it, especially if you're outside of it. There's sort of this perception that it's toxic.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be, it depends on the person. But I think SHARE really distinguishes itself in that it's incredibly accessible. Like we have like shadowing as a reward, where like if you go volunteer, which is already important for pre-med stuff, you get clinical hours, which is very important for pre-med stuff.
Right.
So, and that's open to anyone. There's no financial barrier. There's no like skill barrier. There's no application process. Anyone that wants to get in the clinic can via this club. And that's what makes me so passionate about it. I was previously in another club, and the sort of like head international organization came to the club chapter and said, like, quote unquote, you're not making us enough money. Like, I won't name the club because that'd be mean. Yeah. But no, I left that club and I said, I'm not willing to advocate or be a leader in a club that's solely about getting money from students. We're in college. We don't have money to spare. We can't spend $4,000 to travel abroad. Right. So that's why I'm so passionate about SHARE, and I became so invested in it.
That's so amazing. Yeah, and I think that's crazy to think about. I know, for example, that organizations like Greek Life do have this sort of like dues and shares that you kind of have to pay every year, which I've never joined any like Greek Life or anything. Good for those that join and they have a great experience. That personally wasn't for me. But even like service clubs that they would have that sort of like requirement.
Yeah,
That's
and I mean
insane.
they do stuff on campus too that doesn't cost, but
Right.
like when at the end of the day the purpose is to get people to go on trips and to spend money, like I just can't support that. I'd rather invest my time and effort towards clubs that can tangibly help people in the here and now and help everyone, not just the people that can afford it. Because pre-med is already like financially weighty enough. There's the MCAT, there's the preparation, there's the advising, there's the applications themselves.
Right.
Each application ends up being like about $100.
Oh,
So finding ways to really make it accessible for people is just so important to me.
yeah, no, and it makes total sense, especially when you consider the fact that I personally heard of people that were trying to get like shadowing opportunities on campus, right? Even just like taking apart the volunteering side, which is extremely important. Just trying to get like hours within a hospital environment has been, from what I've heard, like very hard for people to attain because they have to get in contact. They have to try and find these opportunities, which a lot of the times aren't available to them. So the fact that this is like combining both of those is really great. When exactly did the club get started? Is this just like a brand new, like recent development? How long has this been going on?
It's existed since 1991.
Oh,
It
okay.
has been very well established. And of course, over COVID, we couldn't really get into the hospital. So it sort of switched to a mask making program where they gave you a little kit to sew in your own home. And
Oh, okay.
But we're back. I mean, we're reaching numbers that we had pre-pandemic, and we're getting more follow-on than ever before. We had an average of 85 members at most recent GBMs, which, as per my understanding, is a record. So
Yeah, no, usually like GVMs do tend to get like a good amount of people, but not near as that, unless it's like an event where people are holding like free something. But that's amazing. How long have you personally been, in the club and doing stuff for the club?
So I was one semester a general member, and then for a full year, I was the shadowing director. So that's why I'm so passionate about the shadowing portion, because it's my baby. And then this past year, I've been co-president.